Now we'll discuss a journey to the West. At the second stop, at the Dharma Center in Boulder, I included a recollection from someone abroad, her personal account. Originally, she provided quite a lot of material, but here I've excerpted some key parts. She talked about her practice experiences and many other things, but this is just a summary. Actually, these accounts from others, including their own introductions and the excerpts interspersed throughout, they have all been reviewed by the person herself. This is titled Awakened My Life. A few years ago, when I was giving talks in the US, I met an American Buddhist named Leah Groth. In her youth, she had met Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche during his 1993 trip to the US. She had also attended the lecture that His Holiness gave at Mile High Church. We just talked about Mile High Church yesterday, right? It's actually a large church. They sometimes hold events there, like weddings. I heard you can rent it now. Some people asked if I could come again and give a talk there. I said I'd be willing to come, but if I were to teach there, I might feel quite sad. I'm not sure I'd have the heart for it. I had originally planned to include a photo of that church here, but I forgot or something. As she recounted, from that day on, her life underwent incredible transformation. She described it this way: that year I was 13, a little moody. Many kids are like that nowadays too. More interested in hiding than being friendly to others. This is a personality trait many people share, especially many only children these days. It takes a long time for people to mature, and once they finally start to mature, they're already getting old. So life isn't always easy. Sometimes that's just how it is. She said, my parents were Euro-Americans, American by nationality, and both were Tibetan Buddhists. They had a Buddhist center. They belonged to a Buddhist center. This center was originally founded by a female tulku. After she passed away, others came to lead it. It's rather complicated. Well, not complicated exactly. There were many teachers. They had invited many Nyingma teachers, including Penor Rinpoche, and often held various Buddhist activities. As a second generation of this group, we could say Buddhist second generation. Some of you are from wealthy families, some are Buddhist second generation, some are from political families, some are wealthy, some are Buddhist. All kinds of people, really. I had no siblings to distract me and no other relatives to take care of me. She was probably actually she's an acquaintance of our translator Sangye Khandru. Sangye Khandru had called her mother. In her article, she mentioned that Sangye Khandru told her mother, a Tibetan Buddhist master is coming. Would you like to come? So her mother brought the girl along. With no other choice, I could only attend these activities with my parents. One time I heard that a Rinpoche had come from Tibet to teach in America. We drove about 30 minutes to a church. Actually, when they arrived, I think it was already evening or something. They stayed overnight and attended the next day. The inside of the church was surprisingly atypical. It was hard to believe we were in a church. There were no crosses anywhere, no dangling sons of God. Nothing at all. They were she was probably used to seeing these things as a child. I am fairly critical by nature. Before entering that church, her personality was particularly difficult, full of doubt and skepticism. Probably nowadays many people, including Westerners, are like this, especially children from more privileged backgrounds. They really do tend to have all sorts of personalities. I don't remember well how it all got started. I wasn't even sure which one was the important person we had come to see. I only remember that event was not very typical Tibetan. Tibetan events are usually colorful. They might need various things, including in the shrine hall, hanging thangkas, Buddha statues, blowing conch shells. I was used to gold and brocade and implements and chanting. She was probably a bit tired of it all. But this was very simple, none of that. The main speaker was sitting in an armchair, and the others were in normal chairs. It was not terribly impressive until the main speaker started talking. She has a good memory, though. Some things from 30 years ago are indeed forgotten, but some details she still remembers clearly. His voice was deep and resonating. As we all know, those who've heard His Holiness's teachings, His Holiness naturally has a kind of blessing power for us. It seemed to enter me. Even though I understood nothing of what he said, it made profound sense to me. At 13 years old, at first I will admit it, I was bored. But I am not someone who is ever bored for long, so I studied all those people on stage, in particular the older Tibetan man who was talking, referring to His Holiness. I remember that he was looking at me. Maybe it was my self-absorption, or maybe a false memory. Perhaps His Holiness. I think when he looked at her, that glance was the blessing. That's how she received this blessing. Still, slowly at that moment, I felt something open in me, and a deep understanding arose. This girl really had a deep connection. His Holiness just looked at her, and immediately, you could call it a small awakening. The carpet and walls and chairs in the church became hollow, transparent, seemingly unreal. Look at this. At 13, she experienced the unity of clarity and emptiness, both empty and luminous and unreal. The state of clarity and emptiness, inseparable, already appeared at that moment. The swirls of emotion-ridden thoughts subsided. My hormone-stressed teenage brain was finally temporarily pacified, even quieted. She said this about that moment. She explains more below, but I won't go into it here. Ironically, I came out of that church truly a Buddhist. Westerners are generally quite honest. If this hadn't happened, she wouldn't have said it. No longer a seeker. Before she was a seeker, a critic, very much that type. Although she didn't understand and didn't know who he was, I've always felt, I've often mentioned this before, when some masters come to visit, take your children along. They might be quite naughty at that age. Whenever I teach in local communities, no matter how naughty the children are, I'm happy in my heart. Perhaps by planting a seed in them now when they grow up. In the autobiographies of many Tibetan masters, they write, "My father took me to meet a master, I didn't know his name," or "My mother took me to meet a master." Later, they realized it had a profound impact on their lives. This phenomenon is very common. So she immediately became like this. I became more certain and much less confused. While I forgot the teaching and even the name of this great teacher, I never forgot the change that had taken place in me. She didn't know the teaching, didn't know His Holiness's name. I asked many times, she asked her mother many times who that teacher was, but my mother was never great with remembering Tibetan names. Jigme Phuntsok. It's probably quite complicated for people of other nationalities. Sometimes we also find some names hard to remember, especially Japanese names, like Endo, Banjo, Sanchang. There are so many. So she wasn't good at remembering them. So for a long time, this name remained a mystery to her. Then, as karma would have it, through my editing work, I became connected with Larungar. Later, through our Wisdom and Compassion Translation Center and many editing projects, there was a connection. I discovered that the great teacher who had transformed my heart and sealed me on my path was Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche. He had taken my mind and returned me to my true refuge, the Buddha Dharma. That's how she came to this. Now, for what follows, I'll give a brief explanation. As I mentioned earlier, what happened to her is a strong expression of the inconceivable blessings of His Holiness. As a great realized master, he could not only transform the minds of beings by giving Dharma teachings, but also through his voice or his gaze. Look at that little girl just now. First, she heard him but didn't understand what he was saying. Perhaps through the faculty of hearing, her ear consciousness played a role, and His Holiness kept looking at her. That somewhat mysterious gaze of his brought about a complete transformation in her, especially if parents take their children to meet a qualified master or to attend a Dharma assembly. For a child with deep virtuous roots, their samsaric story may be rewritten from that point on. So this is quite important. Let's reflect on this story. Many of us, probably quite a few of you here, have personally received empowerments and teachings from His Holiness. Even if some of you haven't, His Holiness's teachings and advice, you can fully understand them. That girl just now, what His Holiness taught, it should be the class on Milarepa's gradual path of practice that we discussed earlier. She didn't understand any of it at all, a 13-year-old, and on top of that, they said at the time she couldn't understand His Holiness at all. But she could understand everything Sangye Khandru Kandru said. When she chatted privately with Sangye Kandru, she understood everything, but through His Holiness's blessings, she later formed this auspicious connection. So sometimes we should cherish the causes and conditions in all aspects. I think many of you here have had to go through so much. In a sense, whether you're ordained or a lay practitioner, especially when studying in Tibetan areas, you encounter all kinds of things others don't know about. It's like a pebble in your shoe. Only you know it's there, right? When there's a pebble in your shoe, others can't tell at all, but you know what that pebble means to you. So each of us has things unknown to others, much suffering, obstacles, difficulties, all kinds of things. But one thing we all have is that we've encountered the Mahayana Dharma and His Holiness's lineage. So every single moment, including our oral exams, we don't know if those of you here will go on to teach the Shurangama Sutra extensively. If not, at least when you do an oral exam and speak for a few minutes, that counts as teaching the Shurangama Sutra in this lifetime, right? You can tell others later, oh, I've taught the Shurangama Sutra before. I've taught it many times at Larung. Others won't know exactly how complete your teachings were, but you did teach it. That's not lying. So whether we're teaching the Shurangama Sutra or doing oral exams, it's a wonderful opportunity. Everyone should. This is a wonderful opportunity. Cherish it. That's all for today.
Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye